of us, the terms greenhouse effect and global warming conjure up dreams of hotter summers, higher factor sun creams, and possibly the disappearance of Essex. Even the scientists seem pretty unsure about what these terms really mean. They tell us that rising levels of carbon dioxide will cause a global increase in temperature of 3 degrees Celsius over the next 100 years. But what they don't know is how the likely climate changes here in Britain will affect our countryside. Will Sherwood Forest become Sherwood Jungle, the oak replaced by the palm, our gardens turn to deserts? Well, it's hard to tell, and so far all the scientists have come up with are theories. To really find out what's going to happen to Britain when things warm up, they need to create the future. Well, here on a hillside in Derbyshire, scientists from Sheffield University are studying the effects of a changing climate by changing the climate itself. They've divided the hillside into 2-metre plots, and the plants in each one are treated to different weather conditions. On this plot, they're suffering from a summer drought. It just takes a few drops of rain, and these covers automatically move over the plot, and when it stops raining, they open up again. Other plots have been kept warm through the winter with heating cables laid on the soil surface. These are carefully set up to maintain a temperature 3 degrees warmer than the surrounding hillside. But some of these plots that had this milder winter were also subjected to a late frost. For a few nights in June, they were sealed off and blasted with freezing cold air. All these treatments, droughts, mild winters and late frosts, mimic the expected weather patterns if Britain warms up in the next century. Although previous experiments have grown isolated plants in laboratory fridges or ovens, this hillside project is the first where anyone has studied the way global warming might affect the whole web of plants out in the countryside. Well, the plants have been through a year of it, and results are coming in. Professor Philip Grime is head of the team working here. Philip, what have you found?
Well, you can see in this plot where we've droughted during the summer using this rain shelter, we're getting some quite severe effects of drought, and some of the plants are actually being killed and flowers are not developing. There's quite a lot of bare ground and you can see the dead foliage. I think we might see that some of the plants that are more moisture demanding, plants like some of these sedges which you can see here, if they begin to retreat, then I think it's quite possible we might begin to see southern species beginning to move further north, plants that normally would require warmer, drier, perhaps more open conditions.
And what will happen to the northern species?
Well, they may become restricted to higher altitudes and to more northerly parts of the country.
So what will happen during the mild winters that we've promised?
Well, I think we can see a good illustration of that in this plot. This plot has been heated by 3 degrees over the winter, and you can see that some plants that we've sown, plants of southern Britain, have been able to establish. Here's the wild carrot. Here's a perforated St. John's wort in flower. Down at the bottom there, there's some marjoram. Now, these plants wouldn't normally be able to grow in this area, and here they are. They're doing quite nicely with a 3-degree elevation of temperature over the winter.
And what about the late frost?
Plants which have been encouraged to grow early by these heating cable treatments do then become more vulnerable to frost when it's applied in the late spring.
It's not just some British plants that might suffer if the climate changes, but also some farmers. Fruit farmers could find their crops flowering early and then damaged by frost, which could ruin their whole crop. And sheep farmers here in the uplands may have to graze their sheep in the winter and find new feeds in summer when these pastures have dried up. If global warming does mean a move to a more Mediterranean countryside and perhaps growing peaches and oranges in our gardens, for many of us that might not seem so bad. But the flip side is that we may lose forever some of our unique natural plants.